I'm not sure. Okay, so hello. Thank you very much for the presentation. It's very nice, and I'm getting familiar with your work, Father. So it's been great. Just a little bit, a very simple question, and I'm sorry if it's too simple, but I was just want to ask you. I suppose you said something a little bit about narcissism and being a Lacanian psychoanalyst before, and I was just wondering, because I've been also very much in line with same interests a little bit, but I do have to say, I have to a little bit to disclose to you, I feel a little bit guilty sometimes, because I think Lacanian psychoanalysis has its own kind of ways of thinking.
Ways of?
Yeah, it has its own ways of thinking in terms of the practice of it, how it collapses kind of the narcissistic, what you're saying, and kind of collapses all the identifications, kind of phallic identifications and all that, in a very, very different ways, where we find in theology, through the transformations and the ascesis, has a very, very different practice and very different ways of thinking and consciousness, I suppose. So you, just a very simple question, just because you, I just wanted to ask you, just because you said that you were an analyst before as well, how do you compromise this now? How do you consolidate, and compromise, so how do you consolidate your previous kind of analytical thinking and practice with a theological when it comes to understand or help others, I suppose? You know, how do you consolidate those two, the theological terms with the very analytical, which has its own mindset and own kind of function, I suppose? If you have any thoughts on that. I personally feel, I'm a psychologist myself, and I feel a little bit guilty to try to do any consolidation of this a little bit, but I've been driven somehow intuitively, and so I was wondering, how did you come about to shift and to consolidate those two?
I analyze my colleagues. I create files, psychological files for colleagues and students. No, look, psychoanalysis is not kind. It's not kind at all. And in order to understand it, you have to understand how wrong was a great part of European philosophy, and how much this European philosophy neglected life, the real life. So, in a sense, psychoanalysis is the opposite of the idealism. I have written texts on psychoanalysis. Two of them are going to be incorporated in the next issue of Analogia, which is dedicated with the help of Dr. Stoyan Stanev. And it will be a very interesting double volume dedicated to Orthodox theology and science. And I have two essays on psychoanalysis and the roots, the theological roots of psychoanalysis. And of course, there's a book I'm trying to write on the theological roots of the unconscious. But in the everyday life, it can be combined, but with love, my dear colleague, with love. You have to love the other. What theology adds is the adoption, the eschatological dimension, that the fact that this man or this woman is a son of God or a daughter of God, you know. So you approach him through his future, through his what can become, you know. Psychoanalysis is protological. It is also eschatological. One of my essays says that although Freud was atheist, in the essays that got published in Analogia, it's an old translated from Greek, says that psychoanalysis is clearly biblical. He tries to help you become what you want to be. Has this, but in the theological sense, this horizon is much broader. So this man that you have in front of you is someone that God likes to dwell in him. You know, it makes make him his son or his daughter or his whatever. So if you use psychology in this perspective, then it will be a tool for new discoveries. But the solutions, the existential solution, it's got to be theological. You understand? If you're trying to give just psychological solutions, you will be confused. You will confuse the others. You will become rich at the very same moment, but the results will be. It's very important to have this combination, but it is first of all a question of internal ascetics that you have to follow. Okay, so thank you for this question.
Thank you. I think two more questions further.